Hello there. Well, we've got another cold day, but it's lovely. Very clear, you can see for miles. I'm back on Craigmaddie Muir, and I sometimes find myself hesitating a little bit when I say that word, because it's actually spelled M-U-I-R, as if you're meant to say Craigmaddie Muir. But, you know, it is a moor, there's no doubt about that. The last video that I did, titled The Stones of Craigmaddie, shot up here, threw up a few questions, at least one of which was a pretty big question that really needed answering or addressing. And in order for me to do that, I had to come back up here, you know, just to at least satisfy myself, or just for me to try and get a better handle on what's going on up here. The main question was centred around, if you may remember, if you've watched that video, I found a stone footprint, and it's actually just in the rock, just where the camera is there. I'll show you again in a minute. And I got really excited, you know, I thought, my God, a stone carved footprint has got to be a very important thing, you know. I had visions of Danad up at Kilmartin, the fort there, and the stone footprint that's there. And I thought, goodness, have we got a similar situation here? So I went home and I was kind of jumping up and down and waving my hands around. I was just very excited, you know. And I emailed quite a few folk to spread the good news, like I'd really discovered something quite special. And that's what I thought, you know. I got a couple of replies back, and two of those casted some doubt as to whether this actually is a carved footprint. You know, that the carved is the kind of word that's disputed here. One of those replies was pretty adamant, you know, it's not a carved footprint. There's no doubt that it is that it looks like a footprint and it's in the rock, but it was suggested that no, this is a natural feature. But when I read that, I thought, what? Nonsense, surely. I was obviously a bit disappointed there, you know. All my kind of excitement was suddenly shot down in flames. So you know, I had to come back up here to try and figure it all out. And I think the best way for me to do that and to try and explain it to you is if we just get down to ground level, we'll have a closer look at this rock and the footprint, and I'll try to explain exactly why it could be natural. Okay, that's me down at ground level, in amongst all the sheep shit. Anyway, okay, so here is the footprint. Quite a small footprint. I should probably say footprint in inverted commas, but no, it's very hard to imagine something that would be more like a footprint. You know, the heel, and the front of the foot, and even the insole here. Now, the reason that this could in fact be natural is because this slab of stone here, flattish slab of stone, is apparently conglomerate stone. I'm no geologist, but it's something like that. It's conglomerate. It's not one type of stone like sandstone, where it's just all the one type. It's just the word kind of says it all really, conglomerate. It's a mixture of different types of stone that I suppose at some point in the past have all been kind of squashed and melted together or something like that, you know. And what happens in stone like this is if you, for example, if you had two rounded bits of a particular type of stone in here, and you know all the different stones, they will all weather over tens of thousands of years at different rates. And if you had two rounded bits of stone that perhaps weathered quicker than the stone that surrounded them, then that could over a long period of time form two little depressions in the rock that could perhaps join together and look vaguely like a footprint. And that is allegedly what we have here. I know it sounds quite incredible, but you know, I mean, I remember when I spotted this, I did notice other little dips or little depressions in the rock that did, if I'm honest, make me kind of wonder, but perhaps I just kind of brushed these to the back of my mind and kind of blundered onwards with the carved footprint theory. You know, I mean, I'll try and show you some of the other depressions to kind of let you see what I'm talking about. I mean, there's one just there, you know, just little depressions. I can see how this might be natural. That said, I mean, there's apparently that many little strange rock carvings up here on the moor. You know, I showed you a few on the Old Wife's Lift and at the end of the last video. And in fact, the image that I have used at the beginning of this video, which shows a kind of head or a face, that is on the Old Wife's Lift. I actually shot that footage the last time I was here, and in the last video, the Stones of Craigmaddie, I did talk at length about the Celtic god Cernunnos and how one of those heads on the Old Wife's Lift was thought to look as if it was a face with a bit of a horn and maybe a hint of another horn, and it was thought that this might be the Celtic god Cernunnos. But at the time, I reckon I wouldn't find it because it would be too weathered, and although I took images of it, at the time I didn't realise that was it. And that's the image I've used at the start of this video. So there's just a lot of carvings up here. At one time, as I say, there's a lot of rock outcrops, and there would have been men up here for the past couple of thousand years probably, knocking lumps out of it to use stone for building and other sort of things. You know, I mentioned the chamber cairn just sort of behind me somewhere. They would have needed stone for that. And apparently, amongst the men who come up here to quarry stone, there was some who quarried the stone for millstones, you know, big round bits of stone that would have been used in mills in order to help sort of break down the grain or whatever they were milling. And it is thought that perhaps, I mean, if you had a lot of guys up here and sitting about, maybe they thought to kind of do the odd little carving in their spare time or create a bit of mischief by carving all sorts of weird things to give folk like me something to think about years later. And perhaps, you know, one of those guys saw what looked, you know, maybe come up here and he thought, doesn't that look like a footprint? Then he thought, what I'll do is I'll just carve it out a little bit more and make it more like a footprint. Yeah, who knows? I'm not 100% convinced, to be honest. There's still a part of me would like to think this is a footprint. And, you know, if we sort of dream or fantasise for a moment and imagine that this is a carved footprint, then I would, in the same way at Donad, I would expect to find a settlement or a fort right here. There is an Iron Age fort at Craigmaddie Castle a couple of miles in that direction, but that is not close enough for me to go with this. So I'm going to spend the rest of the day having a look around. I first of all want to have a look at the site of the steading, which is just sort of down there mid-19th century, and probably existed before that. And I also want to look at the sort of rocky rise just there. Both of these as potential sort of settlement areas. I'm not under any illusions here. I'm not going to find any settlement, Iron Age or otherwise. But I have to look. Something really powerful has drawn me back up here. It's not just this thing here. As I say, I'm not going to find anything, but I have to look. As far as the video is concerned, nothing conclusive is going to happen here, and this may well turn out to be the most boring video you've ever seen in all your life. There's more little marks on the stone here, as well as just generally trying to figure out where any kind of potential settlement might have been up here in the Iron Age or before then. I am going to have a look at as much rock as I can, and I don't know if you can see that. I mean, there's little holes on the rock all over the place. A lot of it probably just due to just general quarrying, some part of the process of getting stone out of here, but you can see there's a little hole in the middle there, and there's lots of little holes around it, as if somebody's trying to make a little circular design. Again, you know, we could be looking at the mischievous nature of some quarryman in the past, or perhaps it's not that. Perhaps that is, I don't know, you know, something important. So I'm going to have a look at as much rock as I can, and we're quite near that old steading that used to be called Craigmaddie Muir, and I want to really have a look at that. I wanted to show you this. The old steading that takes its name after the moor, Craigmaddie Muir, it's just on a flat bit of ground on the rocks, just up there. And as I perhaps mentioned at the start of the video, in many ways I would be very keen to find where folk lived up here in the past, and I don't just mean in the Victorian period, I mean in the Iron Age and at other times, because there's been a lot of stuff has happened up in this moor. You've got the 3 wives' lifts, some kind of Druidic location for ceremonies and what have you, which at one time apparently had a ring of trees around it, which would have added to the mystical nature of the site. And you've also got a very large chambered cairn where a lot of people would have been deposited when they were dead, thousands of years ago, you know. So my main question, apart from the stone footprint today, is where did these people stay? Now, there is allegedly signs of an Iron Age fort at Craigmaddie Castle, which is just a couple of miles in that direction. It's not that far away. But as I say, if we're going to kind of dream and fantasise and make hypotheses, and in many ways that's quite a significant part of what archaeology is all about. You kind of dream and wonder how it used to be and make up stories, and in the end you hope to perhaps prove them by digging stuff up or whatever. So let's do a lot of dreaming. If there's one thing I'm good at in life, it's dreaming and guessing and stuff like that. So am I going to find any settlement? I very much doubt it, but let's try and think logically here. If that is a carved footprint, ooh, what was that? Strange insect. Then I would expect to find an area of settlement just right beside it. And in many ways, perhaps it doesn't have to be a fort. You know, if you think about Dunad at Kilmartin and the stone footprint there, that's quite a rocky, high rocky kind of outcrop, or yeah, little hillock thing that rises out of a flat landscape, and you could see how that would be a fort and easily defended. We don't quite have the same here, or do we? And look at this rock here. And obviously there's been a lot of quarrying going on here, but that settlement, Craigmaddie Muir, that existed up until about the beginning of the 19th century, is right above us. That is a lot of rock and a very steep slope on this side of it. And what you sometimes find, I mean, if you're going to build a house or you're going to look for somewhere to erect a few circular huts in the Iron Age or any other period in time, then you're going to look to try and find a decent bit of land, a bit of ground that's maybe flattish and you know, not boggy. And throughout time, people will have recognised good areas of land on which to build, and it's highly likely that the steading Craigmaddie Muir that is just above us has been in use. That area of ground will perhaps have houses built on it and demolished and built, and throughout time, you know, perhaps over 1,000 years ago. And if there was a defended settlement in this area, and that's, if you want to build a settlement in the Iron Age, then that's why a lot of these were hill forts. You know, they're on a hill because it's, one, you can get a good look at the surrounding area, but it's also the more natural features you can incorporate into your fort that afford it some amount of defence, the less work you have to do in trying to defend your fort. And all this rock here is a natural defence, and if you're going to build something just above this, this would be a good place. Okay, it's not rocky on all sides, and you would probably have to erect some palisades or wooden fences and stuff if you wanted to defend your settlement. There is a part of me thinking that, well, maybe you had settlements that weren't necessarily defended. Perhaps you could have an area of habitation here, lots of circular huts in the Iron Age or whenever, that were just here because this was a handy place to have them. It was nearer where you did stuff like looked after your cattle or whatever. And in the event that suddenly the shout went up, the Romans are coming, or whatever, then you could just move a couple of miles in that direction in haste towards the fort at Craigmaddie Castle. The assumption being that that is or was a defended structure. All that said, and I'm starting to waffle a little bit here, given the rock here, and there's further rock on another site that I want to have a look at that is also rocky defences like this on two sides. That's another possible location for any settlement, so perhaps you did have a defended settlement here. So this is the site of the steading that takes its name after the moor, Craigmaddie Muir. These two stone pillars would, I dare say, have been the entrance and the way in. That said, I don't actually see any holes that would have hung a gate, which does kind of make you wonder what these are. And there's another stone post just behind the camera, a distance, well, it's 3 stone uprights. It's a fairly flat area of ground. There's nothing much to see on it at the moment, apart from these three stones. It's obviously overgrown. There's no signs of a building at all, really. A few little bumps in the ground. And as I think I pointed out just earlier on there, on that side of this flat bit of ground, you've got a pretty severe rocky drop, which would have afforded good natural defences on that side. And as I also said, I mean, there are sides of this fairly small area that don't have natural defences, and if you were to have some place of occupation that was defended, you would have to stick up things yourself. I mean, the second site that I kind of favour as a potential site of occupation in the Iron Age or whenever is just over there. And again, it's bordered on this side and also on the western side by pretty severe rocky drops, which would have afforded good natural defence. On the other two sides, it's not. There isn't any natural defence there. So. But as I touched on, perhaps you didn't need to have a defended settlement. I don't really know, you know. I would imagine aeroplanes. I would imagine that all settlements in the Iron Age and the other times before that, Bronze Age or whenever, perhaps didn't necessarily have to be defended. You know, perhaps this was just near where they looked after their cattle and stuff. And in times of danger, they could just have took themselves off to an area that was defended, perhaps. The fort at Craigmaddie Castle, just a couple of miles that way. But just when I look at all this rock, especially on that side, I do think that this, you know, this could have been a defended settlement. Don't know if you could call it a fort. But in the absence of any evidence of hut circles and things, it's just all conjecture. Obviously behind the camera you had the steading called Craigmaddie Muir. And as I touched on, a lot of these sites were so good as far as places to put your house, or your huts, that they were used throughout time. Anyway, I want to just go up on top of this section up here, my second favourite site, maybe have a look at some rock on the way up there. And after that, I might just have a look at some more rock. Exciting stuff, eh? We're going to look at lots of rock. And then I might make my way actually to Craigmaddie Castle. I don't know if I'm going to go via the moor. It might just be not possible. For some inexplicable reason, I'm wearing shoes instead of boots, and the ground is pretty boggy. If I can't get that way, I might just go back. The road I came actually past the entrance to the Craigmaddie estate, so I might just go in. And I've never seen the castle before. I don't think there's much left. I think it was just a tower house type of castle, and there'll be no signs that I will be able to see, but there is apparently a circular sort of enclosure around it that indicates that perhaps there was an Iron Age fort there. So that's the plan. I'm almost loath to say I found something, because sure as fate, whatever I call it, it'll turn out not to be that. But this is definitely, I don't know if you can see it from there, but you know, I dare say it's not going to be a hut circle or anything like that. It could just as easily be a little kind of hut for the stonemasons that were up here at any point in the past several hundred years. But nevertheless, I'm trying not to stand up so that my head's in shot. You can perhaps see a bank of stones round here, and it's definitely in a curving shape. Yeah, it reminds me of the shillings at Strathyre. It's got that kind of feel about it, although it's a little bit bigger than that little kind of shilling structure. But this is definitely some sort of structure. It's right beside the path there, and it is in front of the stones there. You know, if I'm thinking there's a settlement up on top of this bit here, then it would be a rather strange place to put your hut. Although it is, you know, we are protected on this side by the rocky drop, just on the other side of the settlement there. Yeah, something to think about, certainly. But I'm not going to call it a hut circle or anything like that, because sure as fate I'll email somebody and they'll email me back and say, it's not, it's natural. It's definitely not natural. Well, we're up on top of that second location that I thought had the potential to be a settlement back in the Iron Age or at any point before that, simply because it's a kind of flat area up here. It's got a rocky drop on that side and this side. I thought that's a reasonable bit of natural defence on those sides. This is some kind of fairly modern thing. It's probably to do with the Second World War. I don't know if I remember reading on the internet there was some kind of gun emplacement up here. I don't know whether that's what this is a part of. That same bit on the internet said something about signs of some kind of circle. I don't know, a henge circle around about that thing. I'm struggling even to find the chamber cairn. Never mind anything else. The chamber cairn's just down there. And that's an aeroplane. Views are stunning. Worth coming out all this way just for the views, to be honest. Well, it's very hard to make anything out up here. If there ever was any habitation up here, it's going to be very hard to spot now, and you're maybe going to have to wait for a drought and some aerial photography, or I don't know, something. But I'm not going to be able to spot it. Anyway, we'll make our way in this direction, following this modern fence line which is protecting the new forest here, and we'll head in the direction of Craigmaddie Castle, and the old tower where the Iron Age fort site is located. And to make it maybe a wee bit more exciting, because I appreciate that this hasn't been the most riveting video you'll ever have seen. So to make it more exciting, we'll pretend we're being chased by the Romans and we now have to flee to safety. So let's flee. We won't flee too fast because there's a sheer drop here. We'll carefully flee. Trying to sit so that you can see both me and something else. I've been looking at more rock, as you do. I seem to have found something else. I mean, either that or I'm losing the plot here. I mean, look. I mean, no doubt that that is carved. That's not natural, you know. What does that look like to you? I'll give you a couple of seconds to figure it out. Looks a bit like an eye, doesn't it? And I do very vaguely recall of all the stuff that people talk about that's up here in this moor. I just vaguely remember something about an eye. I suppose if you look at, there's not a pupil. So that in theory, if you look at it from perhaps this end as opposed to that side, it could perhaps look like something else, you know. Women's parts, perhaps. Although I'm not sure that I want to go down that road. I've lost it, right. But, you know, we're not too far away from, if I just round the rocky corner there, is the Auld Wives' Lift. If anybody gets back to me and says it's natural, I'll just cry. All right? Well, that's the ruins of Craigmaddie Castle just behind me there. I've not seen it before, and it is a ruin, just a few walls left. And I had to come up quite a steep bank there, and there's perhaps a hint of a ditch around the edge. I don't know whether that's part of the castle's defences or groundwork, or whether it's part of the Iron Age fort that is supposedly just right at the spot, really. I had to come back onto the road in order to get here, because I came upon the estate boundary wall and it was just a bit too high to try and go over. And then I ended up in a swamp. I sometimes wonder how I managed to get myself into these situations, you know. I suppose at the end of the day I'm just daft. That's probably it. Anyway, and also when I come in here, I get told off for coming, walking on a private road, part of the estate, you know. At the end of the day, you just can't go wandering always into folks' property, you know. So I've clearly approached this the wrong way. Anyway, I'm here. So it's been a fairly mediocre day, you know. Every time I go up onto the moor, I seem to be finding various parts of the human body carved in rock. First it was a foot, now it's an ear, or sorry, not an ear, it was, what was it? It was an eye, or whatever. Perhaps the next time I'm up in the moor I'll find an ear carved in the rock. That would be good. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed today's sprackling. I'm Eddie Burns. I'll see you again.